Have you ever noticed that no matter how incredible a doll line is, the boy dolls almost always end up low key kind of disappointing? Like, the girls be getting these layered outfits, detailed accessories, unique hairstyles, rooted eyelashes, intricate face screenings, and dozens of releases. Meanwhile, the boys, on the other hand, they're lucky if they even get a jacket. Also, why do boy dolls no longer have real hair, guys? Like, what is going on? It's weird how it's not just one company that does this. Mattel does this, MGA does this, other companies that I don't know about does this. Even some collector doll lines struggle with it. So, today I want to dive into the history of boy fashion dolls, how they've evolved over the years, and why they often receive less attention than the girls, and whether the industry is finally starting to change. Let's talk about the forgotten side of the doll. It all started with Ken.
Hi, Barbie!
When people think of boy dolls, the first one that usually comes to mind is Ken. Introduced in 1961, just 2 years after Barbie, Ken was never really meant to be the star. Barbie was the fantasy, while Ken, on the other hand, he was just the accessory. I mean, that was literally the whole plot of the Barbie movie, is that Ken felt like he was less than the Barbies because he realized that he didn't have as much of a big role. Or he just wasn't sure what his role was. And honestly, I know that that movie was supposed to be a metaphor for how men feel today in this society, but I also feel like it unironically became a metaphor for how it is in the doll industry for boy dolls as well. Just because Ken wasn't the main character does not mean that no one cared about him. He became one of the most recognizable dolls ever made, but his role was to often take after Barbie and be a part of her world rather than leading his own. And of course, in the Barbie movie, when he did decide to lead his own world, we saw how that went. But he's still important, guys. For decades, Barbie received the dream houses, careers, themed collections, and experimental fashions, while Ken usually just followed along. That pattern would quietly influence almost every fashion doll line that came after. Just to go on like a very short rant here because I love ranting and rambling in my videos. Ken is actually such an important character to me in general, especially Barbie Life in the Dream House Ken. Like often people debate on which Ken is the best, and I feel like there's no right answer except Barbie Life in the Dream House Ken. Like if you believe any other Ken is better, well, unless you say Barbie Fairy Secret Ken, that's also fair. That's really fair. Both are equally funny, just quirky, nerdy, geeky characters. Barbie Life in the Dreamhouse Ken is into robotics and is very protective of his girlfriend while still being able to get giddy with her over things that boys don't typically get giddy about. And he is one of the girlies while still being very comfortable in his masculinity. And I think that's very important for not just boy characters to see, but also girl characters to see so that they know what type of men that they want to be in their lives and so that boys know what type of men they want to grow up into be. Because at the end of the day, these dolls reflect society and they're also supposed to give kids a role model and someone to be inspired by. And I just think Life in the Dream House Ken really was the best. Not in terms of fashion though. So that's still my point. I don't understand why these boy doll characters can have interesting personalities, but when it comes to fashion, it's often very lackluster. Now, let's fast forward to the early 2000s, and suddenly boy dolls had way more gratitude. I mean, attitude. The Bratz Boys were trying to be absolutely stylish. They had baggy clothes, sneakers, layered outfits, hats, jewelry, and personalities that actually felt different from one another. At least, I think. I haven't watched Bratz in a really long time, guys. If you're a Bratz fan, let me know in the comments below if they had different personalities. For many collectors, they were some of the first boy dolls that actually felt fashionable in their own right instead of simply existing just to stand next to the girls. Were they as popular as the Bratz girls? No, absolutely not. But they proved something important. Bratz boys could sell if companies were willing to put real effort into them. Tiny rant part two. No, but seriously, guys, let me just rant. Okay, let me just rant. Bratz boys. I didn't have one Bratz doll growing up. I know everyone gasped. I never owned a Bratz doll. But I have seen the pictures of the Bratz Boys, and the only thing that I liked about them was the fashion. I don't know what it is about them that I didn't like besides the fashion. I think the proportions were just very weird. It worked on the girls, but on the guys, it just didn't. It just looked very odd. I also, as a kid, I hated facial hair for some reason. Especially on dolls, on boy dolls. Like I just found it so like icky. I don't know why. I'm sorry, guys, but I didn't like how some of them had facial hair. But now looking at it, I'm like, oh, I like that. It makes them look a bit more like what real people look like. I guess I don't know, but I do like how the Bratz Boys actually took so much inspiration from the fashion that was trending at the time. I feel like with a lot of these boy dolls, they're only getting inspiration in terms of fashion for the girls, but they're not looking at the guys at all, almost as if they're saying, oh, well, there is no fashion for men, which is not the case. A lot of people use that as an excuse to say why boy dolls look very bland and generic, but it's really not a good excuse. There has always been fashion for men. Fashion evolves over time, obviously, and I will agree that men's fashion tends to be more restrictive because of gender norms and stuff like that. But overall, men's fashion has evolved just as much as women's fashion. So, I mean, that's really not a good excuse. Then comes Monster High. Characters like Deuce Gorgon, Claude Wolf, Jackson Jacko. Oh my god, okay. Jackson is probably my favorite Monster High boy besides Valentine and Pharaoh. Anyways, Whole Hide, Heath Burns, Invisibility Porter gave us something we hadn't seen for a very long time and that we don't really see often with boy dolls. Monster boys with unique personalities, backstories, and monster inspired designs. Compared to many previous boy dolls, these dolls just had so much more interesting face sculpts and clothing. But even Monster High really wasn't perfect. I mean, if you compare a typical Draculaura release to a typical Deuce release, y'all. The girls often received layered clothing, earrings, bags, bracelets, hats, unique shoes, and elaborate hairstyles. The boys, many wore just the same flat, like bland shoes, simple pants, straight leg pants, no, never any baggy, and very few accessories, if no accessories at all. There were exceptions, of course, but as a whole, the girls almost always received the most elaborate designs. That's something many collectors have noticed over the years with all the generations of Monster High, and it's really a shame, especially in this era. Like I'm still surprised that even the G3 boys have such bland fashion. There's so much inspiration that Monster High could be taking from right now. You have Pinterest, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have YouTube. There are so many male fashion gurus out there and taking inspiration from for these boy dolls. So there really is no excuse. I mean, come on. Like they can at least look at Wisdom's account, guys. Like I don't know what they need to do something. And the fact that like I can only name like one boy doll from Monster High that's a collector's item that genuinely made me go like, oh, like that fashion is good. But also Valentine as well. Valentine has a really good fashionable look this time around, and I feel like they just took like one extra leap and decided not to play it safe like they do with every other boy doll. And honestly, it really is a shame because Monster High takes lots of inspiration from alternative fashion like punk, goth, emo, what else? Other stuff. So like I don't really understand why the men are looking so bland when men have been a part of those subcultures for years, same as women. So I don't really understand why. I mean, there obviously is some little hints to the alt fashions that they're getting inspired by. Like I definitely think that Deuce is supposed to be a clash between a skater boy who also wants to be punk. But I think that there's just so much more that they can do with an alternative doll line. Ever After High had some memorable male characters too. Hunter Huntsman, Alistair Wonderland, Daring Charming, Dexter Charming, Sparrow Hood, and Chase Redford. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Also, why did Chase never get a doll? Mattel, we're gonna have to talk about that. Each boy had a distinct personality that fit the fairy tale world that they were in, and also it was supposed to reflect who their parents were. Some of their outfits were genuinely creative, mixing fantasy with modern fashion, but once again, if you line them up besides Apple White, Raven Queen, Briar Beauty, or Cerise Hood, the difference in detail is hard to ignore. As usual, the girls had more intricate fabrics, more accessories, and more just visually complex outfits. I mean, the boys looked okay. I mean, they looked like boys, I guess. But they just really got the same level of creativity and work put into them. And honestly, it's just like weird to me and it saddens me that their designs were not very thought out. This is a fantasy doll line, y'all. Like, come on, they could have gave them vests that have intricate designs that are laced in the back with like some type of thread that looks like gold or something like that. Like, you have to remember, these are princes going to school. These are future villains going to school. They're gonna grow up and look elaborate and very real. You know what I'm saying? So like, they really should have looked way more interesting than they did in the show. In Monster High, the boys were side characters just like the boys in Ever After High were, but at least the Monster High boys got to get way more screen time than the Ever After High boys did. I mean, come on, Dexter was fighting for screen time. Like, give my boys some screen time. Oh my gosh. But the Ever After High boys were rarely a part of the girls' journeys at all, which is fine because I mean, it is a franchise made for girls. I get that, but I do think that including some boys just would have been more interesting and would have just shook things up a bit, I guess. I don't know. If I was them, I just would have took a lot more inspiration from different stuff. With characters like Dexter, I love that Dexter is a hipster. You know, Mattel loves their hipsters, I guess. I don't That's fair. That's fair. But there's just so much more they could have added to his design rather than just a little scarf. Is that what that is? A scarf? I don't even know what that is for real. Especially with characters like Daring Charming. I mean, come on, Daring Charming makes everything all about him and he thinks that he's all that in a bag of chips. Why would he wear this plain outfit? There was no way. I know dang well that the real Daring the real Daring in my mind that I made up, would go to school drenched in some type of jewelry all over him. Like, he would just flaunt his riches. I don't think that he would just go looking basic every day in a varsity jacket. No, like, I truly believe that he at least would have bedazzled his varsity jacket. Like, come on. Again, for the Ever After High boys, it just seemed like this was another situation of Mattel not taking male fashion seriously and being like, well, boy fashion is boring anyways, which isn't the truth. Like, come on. There's so many movies and books that they just could have got inspired by. Like, I can't. At least I can look at the girl characters and know what fairy tale story that they're supposed to be from. But for the boys, I'm like, who are you? What are you? Who are you the son of? I don't know you. Like, who is this for real? Rainbow High and Shadow High. Okay, Rainbow High entered the market promising fashion. Naturally, fans hoped that would include the boys, of course. Characters like River Kendall, Ash Silverstone, Rex McQueen, who was the best one, period, Finn Rosado, others actually looked pretty stylish, and some of them are kind of okay. Some even became fan favorites, like Rex. But collectors still pointed out a familiar issue. The girls often came with more detailed fashion, more accessories, and more experimental styling. Meanwhile, many of the boys shared similar clothing silhouettes and simpler designs. Even in a line built around fashion, the boys still felt softer and bland. Rainbow High overall was supposed to be a fashion school. I mean, overall it's an art school, but you know what I mean. It's a fashion doll line, so. But even still, the boys managed to be very bland and generic, which is just sad because Rainbow High, it's not like Rainbow High came out in a time where there was no internet. Like, Rainbow High came out when TikTok was still here, like TikTok had been here. There's Insta, there's YouTube, there's just so many platforms, again, that they could have chose to look at and got inspiration from, which I'm sure they did. Like, if you look at Rex McQueen, I can definitely see the inspiration, especially with his hair and just with the pearls on his neck. I believe he has pearls on his neck because that was like a trend that guys started on TikTok, like they were wearing pearls. Anyways, there's just so many inspirations that they could have took from there and implemented into these dolls. But again, they decided to be lazy and not give the boys any effort because most of the budget goes to the girls. So why do boy dolls almost always seem to get the short end of the stick? One reason is, for a long time, toy companies believed girls were primarily interested in dressing female dolls. And for a long time, humans, period, in various different cultures believed that women care more about materialistic things like makeup, accessories, fashion more than men do. Even though that was a stereotype that was pushed on them, boy dolls were viewed as supporting characters rather than products that could carry a line on their own. There's also the issue of budgets. Fashion doll lines usually have a fixed production budget. More embroidery, layered clothing, rooted hairstyles, and accessories all cost money. Companies often choose to spend more of that budget on the dolls they believe will sell the most, which has usually been the girl characters. But there's another factor that I think is just as important: design expectations. Fashion has allowed women a much wider range of colors, silhouettes, textures, patterns, and accessories, and all these different things like glittery stuff. Way more than men's fashion. It is clear that it is more common for women to express themselves in fashion more than men will, because men often fear being judged or being ridiculed for just simply being themselves. Now, that doesn't mean that men's fashion is boring. It absolutely isn't. But many toy companies fall back on simple jackets, plain pants, and sneakers instead of exploring what's actually possible. And as a result, many boy dolls end up looking repetitive even when they don't have to, and that leads to kids not wanting to buy these dolls. In the world, in my mind, I believe that it's common sense that if these dolls were more interesting, kids and collectors would actually buy them. Of course, it makes sense that male dolls aren't selling well. They're not selling well just simply because they're a boy. They're not selling well because they're not an interesting looking boy. I mean, come on. I'm not gonna go out my way to buy a plain Ken doll. I mean, I might if I need to for the plot. Let's talk about when boy dolls actually get it right, okay? The funny thing is, when companies really try, collectors and parents that are buying these dolls for kids actually notice. Think about some of the most beloved male dolls across different brands. Certain Bratz Boy releases, Monster High collector boys like Valentine, some Shadow High boys, even certain Ken dolls. These dolls prove something. Collectors don't dislike boy dolls, they dislike low effort boy dolls. When companies invest in unique face sculpts, layered outfits, interesting hairstyles, quality fabrics, and memorable personalities, fans respond. The demand is there, it's just that the effort isn't always consistent. I think one of the biggest missed opportunities in the doll industry is treating male characters as if they're optional. Because if you spend any time in the collecting community, you've probably seen people asking for more boys, not fewer. More diverse body types, more hairstyles, more fashion, and more collector releases. The truth is, the best doll lines aren't memorable because they have amazing girl lines. Well, not just that anyway. They're memorable because they created an entire world. Every great world needs characters that feel equally loved by the people designing them. Hopefully, as more collectors continue speaking up about this, we'll see companies finally give boy dolls the same creativity, detail, and care that has made so many girl dolls iconic. But honestly, I would love to hear what you guys think. What's your favorite boy doll of all time, and which doll line do you think treated its male characters the best? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can receive more videos like this and for more deep dives like this, of course. I'll see you in the next one.